About a month ago, I did a video on how I personally deal with social anxiety. And I had no idea how many people deal with social anxiety or how many people that would actually resonate with. It got almost 1 million views in just over 2 weeks. And we got a ton of emails on how much it helped a lot of people. And in those emails, there seemed to be one really common question, which is, how did I find my therapist, the right therapist for me? So when I was doing my search, I just had to kind of figure it out myself because I was too fucking embarrassed to ask anybody on how to find a good one. But I had 5 things that I kind of followed. And so that's what this video is going to be, is the 5 things that I kept in mind when I was doing my search to find the right therapist for me. Just a quick side note for you guys coming home from combat, getting out of the service. When I got out, I had nobody to be accountable to. I had no purpose. And this was probably the one thing that got me back on track, all right? So if you're looking for, a way to get yourself back on track and to find a purpose and for some accountability, this might be the perfect thing to help you out. So your therapist is going to hold you accountable, all right? You got to be there on time. You can't be drinking the night before you go in there if you want to get something out of it. And it will help you get your mind right. It's probably the best fucking thing I've ever done for myself. So, with that being said, let's go over these 5 things that I kept in mind when I was doing my search. So the first question I asked myself is, who do I want to open up to? Do I want to open up to a male or a female? And initially, me being a combat vet, I thought the only person that I could open up to would be a male who had been in my shoes, who had been to combat. So I looked all over the place for somebody probably in the Vietnam area who was now a therapist. And to my surprise, I didn't find any. So my next train of thought was, well, I'm not going to be able to open up to a male that has never been to combat or experienced the things that I've experienced, and I would have that expectation. So I chose a female, which doesn't mean that's what you need, but that was my train of thought. And just for the record, it may be better that I never did find a male who had been to combat, because who knows, maybe I would have been, comparing myself to that individual the entire process. So anyways, what you need to do first is decide who you want to talk to. Do you want to talk to a male or do you want to talk to a female? The second thing that I looked for was the type of therapist that I wanted to talk to. So we got 3 types here. We got counselors, we got psychologists, and we have psychiatrists. All right? So what are the difference between those? Well, psychologists and psychiatrists are both doctors. For me personally, I wanted to talk to a doctor. And so that ruled out counselor immediately. The difference between psychologists and psychiatrists is, the major difference for me was, psychiatrists can prescribe scripts, all right? They can give you a script for meds, they can prescribe you meds, and psychologists cannot, all right? That doesn't mean they don't have a network to where if you need something, they can't get it done, but I personally didn't want to be fed a bunch of pills, and so the best choice for me was to go with a psychologist. So keep that in mind, all right? Who do you want to see? Counselor, psychologist, or psychiatrist? So the third thing to keep in mind is, what do they specialize in? What does that individual doctor or counselor specialize in? Is it insomnia? Is it anxiety? Is it family issues? Is it marital issues? Is it addiction? Is it PTSD? You need to figure that out. You can find that on their website or on their Psychology Today profiles. But find somebody that specializes in what you think you're going for, all right? And that should be pretty cut and dry, but they don't all specialize in everything. So make sure you read up on whoever you plan on going to see. The fourth thing I did, and this is probably one of the most important, is I did my research on who they are as a person too, all right? I chose a female. When I started narrowing it down, you'd be surprised what you can find on Facebook, Instagram, a quick little background check, all right? A lot of the psychologists that I were looking up, I'd pull them, you know, especially mid-20s, early 30s, I'd pull them up on Facebook, and the next thing you know, I see the psychologist that I'm getting ready to open up to bonging beers off the side of a yacht in a G-string, all right? May not sound too bad for some of you out there, but for me, I wanted to separate that side of my life from my therapist, and I didn't want to be thinking about anything other than helping myself get better in therapy. So do a quick background check on them, all right? There's that app, Been Verified, you can check that. That'll give you a quick background on just about anybody. And, you know, look them up on the gram, look them up on Facebook, see what you can dig up about them. You might be surprised. If you're serious about it, I wouldn't go with the party animal that you're going to be thinking about other stuff in the middle of the session. So do a quick background check. The fifth thing, you just got to call and see if they're even taking on any new patients, all right? Usually the first session's free. That's a great gauge, all right? Use that. Bounce around if you need to, all right? Make sure whoever you're going to open up to, you're going to be able to connect with. It's not only for you, it's for them. They need to be able to connect with you as well, all right? So if you don't feel comfortable, you're not going to feel like real comfortable on the first session, but if you feel like it's somebody that you could get comfortable with, if you feel like the environment that you're going to be in, because you're going to spend a lot of time in there, is comfortable, then that might be a good option for you. If the environment and the person that you're talking to you don't feel comfortable with, well, find another one. But call them up, make sure they have availability, and take advantage of that first free session. See if it's going to work. Then lastly, just a couple of things that really fit in either of those categories, any of the five, but referrals, all right? Just like anything, everybody's got referrals. Everybody has the best photographer, they have the best medical doctor, they got the best fucking painter, all right? They got the best therapist, all right? Just because it's the best therapist for them doesn't mean it's the best for you. The other thing is, when you go in there, if you were to take a referral, which I referred a lot of my friends to mine, but you might find yourself wondering where whoever referred you sits, or what they talk about, or how you compare in your therapist's eyes to whoever referred you. That didn't affect me. So just keep that in mind when you're taking referrals and or giving referrals, all right? Insurance. Most therapists that I've found do not take insurance. Why? Probably because they want to keep your files confidential and they don't want to answer to a fucking insurance company. So that means probably going to come out of your pocket, all right? I have VA coverage. I personally don't like the VA. I don't get to choose who I see at the VA, so I came out of pocket, all right? I think it was well worth it. If you have somebody you like, use them, but 100, 200 bucks for a session per week, or however much you're going. I mean, a lot of people spend that on a trainer that took a 2-week course on how to keep your ass a little tighter. So your head's probably a little more important than your ass. So sport the money. It'll be well worth it, I promise. Lastly, I said at the beginning a little bit, I'll say it again. You guys coming home from combat that are looking for some stability, looking for some accountability, and looking for a purpose, you're not going to find it tomorrow. You're probably not going to find it the next day. Probably not going to find it next week. All right? What you need to do is get your head right. By going to therapy, you're going to have some stability because you're going to be in there. It's going to be a program. Not a program, more of a schedule that you can follow and look forward to and hold yourself accountable to. All right? So, like I said, it's probably the best thing I've ever done for myself. But, all right. That pretty much covers how I found my therapist. I'd love to give you my referral, but I don't think that would go over too good because I'll probably lose my slot. But, all right, guys. Good luck to you, and I'll see you soon.